Before we get into the video, I need you guys to do me a favour. Number 1, like the video. Also comment, let me know your thoughts on the case. Vybz Kartel is often regarded as the undisputed king of dancehall music, despite being jailed for life for the 2014 M of dancehall promoter Clive Lizard Williams. Police were so aggrieved of Vybz Kartel's star power and authority and reputation in Portmore, Kingston, that they allegedly had information to tie the artist, the Free World boss, to over 100 M's in Jamaica. Now, the browbeaten and marginalised people of Jamaica called Vybz Kartel the Free World boss and the teacher. However, police called Vybz Kartel a gang boss and a menace and a deviant that was destroying the fabric of civilised society. Now, forget for a moment everything you've heard. Forget for a moment that neither the Jamaican Labour Party or the People's National Party have helped everyday Jamaican populace flourish or even rise from the barrels of low-class poverty. They act as if they were above reproach. In 2022, there were recorded 1,498 M's in Jamaica. Instead of creating jobs, stabilising the economy by creating trade and improving infrastructure, political parties have commonly paid off gangs and allowed the dons to police their own garrisons if they showed allegiance to a particular party. All you have to do is look at the Shower Posse and famed don / gangster Christopher Coke. The fact that Vybz Kartel called his gang Gaza, it was a nod to Kartel was against any oppressive power. It represented the underdog, something both the JLP and PNP had always smothered. Vybz Kartel, real name Adidja Azim Palmer, was born on January 9th, 1976. Born to parents Teresa and Vivian Palmer. Now, he was born at Kingston Victoria Jubilee Hospital. From a young age, Adidja was often called Addy and would often hum riffs and rhymes he heard on the radio. It was in part thanks to his uncles, who were also aspiring artists, that Vybz Kartel was able to recite lyrics from Ninja Man, Will Smith, KRS-One, Buju Banton and even Sam Cooke. Because Vybz Kartel was focused on music, he often was disrupted in school and would often scrap if he felt disrespected. At 16 years old, his behaviour proved too much for the school and he would eventually be kicked out and expelled. However, he did manage to complete his studies by going to the Tutorial Technical School, where he excelled in English, geography, and specifically maths. Now, Vybz Kartel spoke about attending the popular Caliber High School in Jamaica that has raised many stars in the entertainment industry, like Sham, Scutterborough, and others. However, DJ Footer Hype says Vybz Kartel had lied about the school in order to gain street credibility. In actual fact, Vybz Kartel had attended a private school, Hope Valley Experimental School, a private school that had a good reputation and was quote-unquote safe. Now, Footer Hype explained that Vybz Kartel lied about the school in order to gain street credibility and help fulfill his career, which he wanted to do from a young age. Fast forward to 1993, Adidja Palmer would go by the name Vybz Kartel and release his first song titled Love Fat Woman under Alvin Reed's One Heart label, under the name Addy Banton at the time, and that was a nod to another famous artist being Buju Banton. Now, the original charges against Vybz Kartel date back to a July 11th, 2011 incident. Jamaica's Major Investigation Task Force had ruled off a long list of charges against the controversial artist. They included conspiracy to commit an M, illegal possession of firearms. Now, police say they also had proof that Vybz Kartel, as the leader of the Gaza gang, had enlisted mates to M. Barrington Bossy Burton, who was a 27-year-old businessman and music promoter based in Portmore, Vybz Kartel's area. Now, Barrington Bossy's cold body was allegedly found next to one of the properties owned by Vybz Kartel. Now, Vybz Kartel, along with Lenber MacDonald and Nigel Thompson, was said to have been responsible for the M. Police could not pick out who was the actual person that pressed the trigger, so this was a joint enterprise type of incident. 3 witnesses, including a police officer, a neighbour, and crime scene investigator, had come forward, and they were all known to Vybz Kartel. The neighbour explained hearing a loud popping noise. multiple bangs, and when it went silenced, that's when she came out and noticed Barrington's body just laying there, a pool of red going cold. Now, the reason why the prosecution had so many witnesses is because they wanted to eliminate the cause for mistaken identity. Now, regarding this incident, Vybz Kartel had posted $3 million Jamaican dollars in bail money in order to be released. However, he was forced to remain in jail as he had a second M charge, that being his friend and fellow gang member Clive Lizard Williams. Now, police were so hell-bent on containing Vybz Kartel in a cell at the time, as his Gaza camp was fully engrossed in the Mavado's Gully Gang. The two factions were said to be creating a rift in Jamaica's delicate balance containing gang culture. People were picking sides, and the police and the politicians could not stop it, and that's why they had to enlist the president and also Shower Posse boss. Now, it's important to mention that both Mavado and Vybz Kartel came upon the bounty killer, and they were all part of the assassin. When Mavado began to dominate the music charts in 2005, that's when Vybz Kartel felt some type of way. He felt that bounty killer was not given the respect or the presence or the help to continue in the mainstream. He felt he was being let down, and of course that led to the Gaza and Gully divide. And then on December 8th of 2006, both artists met with the Prime Minister of Jamaica, that being Bruce Golding at the time. In front of media, they declared that their feud was only musical, it should not be taken to the streets, and in order to show unity, both parties had performed on the same stage. So again, while sitting in jail, Vybz Kartel had to contend with a second murder investigation, and that being Clive Lizard Williams. By late 2013, Vybz Kartel, who was 38 years old at the time, was being portrayed by the police and media and justice system as public enemy number one, his fame and fortune notwithstanding. On April 3rd of 2014, Adidja Palmer was sentenced to life in prison with no parole possible before the 35-year mark. After the conviction, it took a further 1 week to determine if Vybz Kartel should be allowed to make music while in jail. Now again, Clive Lizard Williams was a dancer and foot soldier in a small army of roughly 30 men, all controlled by Vybz Kartel, and that being Gaza. Now these men were there to ensure that Kartel's interests were looked after and his bidding were done at all times. However, Clive broke the cardinal rule. He was entrusted to look after 2 firearms. However, he had lost them. Vybz Kartel wanted them back. Vybz Kartel asked multiple times for Clive and Chow to give the firearms back. He was met with no response, and of course that frustrated Vybz Kartel. So eventually, Clive Lizard Williams was summoned to Kartel's house, where there was a confrontation between them and Kartel's friends. Now Chow managed to get away, later becoming the prosecution's star witness, but Clive Williams was bludgeoned fatally until he could not move. Now the court heard that Vybz Kartel had exchanged messages and phone calls and voice notes telling them that they would never ever find Clive Lizard Williams' body as he was chopped up like confetti, and that seems to be true. This trial lasted nearly 4 months, and it was considered one of the longest trials in Jamaican courtroom history, and it suddenly ended on March 13th. Now one of the jurors is said to have tried to bribe the jury foreman with $500,000. Of course, he did not accept, and after the court proceedings, that witness was also arrested. Now, exactly 6 years on April 3rd of 2020, a 3-member panel of judges in the Jamaican Court of Appeal reaffirmed Kartel's conviction, and on April 17th of 2020, the Court of Appeal reduced Kartel's parole eligibility from 35 years to 32 years, and that's the only win he's had in the court system pertaining to the M of his friend. Vybz Kartel's grave mistake was he had recorded himself via voice notes and video message sending threats, telling them if I don't get the guns back, which he described as shoes, they will be all held to pay. He literally incriminated himself, and rather than the defence team trying to offer a plausible reason why he would say these things, they says that the police secured the video footage and the voice notes in some improper manner, and that's why it should be dismissed and thrown out, not because their guy was innocent. So effectively, the politicians and the police got their guy. They was able to dismantle Gaza, and by doing that, keep law and order, and that's the reason why Vybz Kartel is considered one of the most dangerous music artists in Jamaica, because he had the people on his sides. Stay safe, safe.